Welcome to the second video on writing essays from Mr. Taylor's ESAT High School History class. And in this video we're going to talk about writing body paragraphs. So you've already seen on how to write an introduction, and in doing so had done a lot of the planning necessary. So let's take a look back at our introduction and see how that's going to move us into our body paragraphs. I'm not going to read the whole introduction. Remember, in the yellow you have a summary of the time period, the era. In the blue you have your thesis statement, and in the green you have your three-part split. That three-part split is going to tell you what your three body paragraphs are going to be about. And the thesis statement is going to be the basis of your analysis, okay, or what's going to be your link. Okay, so we're going to remember those. The thesis, the Catholic Church began to lose influence on politics and religion as it was no longer the sole religion of Europeans. That's what we're trying to prove. And how we're going to prove it: one, the church lost power as German princes took more control of the land. People gained more access to the Bible. And three, their corruption was exposed. Okay, so you have your three-part split. We already have evidence. So the only thing we really need is our analysis. So let's look at what should be in a body paragraph. One, just like you saw, most of the work is done. You have your topics and you have your evidence already planned out. When you write your paragraph, you're going to start with your claim. That's that topic. It needs to be an assertive statement. Okay, you're making a claim. You're trying to say something. Okay. When you use the evidence, you need to speak specifically and give as much details as possible. Okay, that pertain to the topic. Don't go and talk about details that have nothing to do with what you're trying to say. But when you do speak in detail, speak specifically about specific people, specific events, specific places. Okay, don't just talk in general terms. Okay, and explain. This is your link. Okay, as many of you are familiar with, you're using the CELEL paragraph structure in your English courses. C is claim, evidence, and then link back to the claim, evidence, link back to the claim. So in that link, you're explaining how your evidence supports the claim, and then also really your thesis. So let's take a look at our three-part split. I'm not going to talk about the first one because you can see that example in just a second. But I want to talk about the other two body paragraphs: more access to the Bible and limited Catholic corruption. Okay, and I want to put up for a second what our thesis statement is at the top. So look at more access to the Bible. That will become your claim. Okay, and so you need to take that topic and relate it to the thesis. So you could say, the Catholic Church began to lose influence as people gained more access to the Bible. Boom. Topic sentence. Then you're going to give your evidence. Martin Luther, while in captivity, translated the Bible from Latin into German. Most people could not speak Latin and were unable to read the Bible, and most people could read German. Okay, that's your evidence. Okay, now I need my explanation. How does that go to them losing power? Okay, just telling them that the people could read the Bible now does not show how they could lose power. So I need my link to be, as people had access to the Bible, they could see that they didn't have to trust what the Catholic Church was telling them, and they could make up their own idea on what the Bible means. Okay, which then goes into the next topic, or next piece of evidence. Martin Luther believed that anybody could read the Bible and anybody could interpret it. This was previously something only priests and Catholic clergy could do, but Martin Luther had a policy called the priesthood of all believers. Now, that's my evidence, right? How does that show that they lose control? Okay, the interpretation of the Bible was something once under only the control of the Catholic Church, but now that control had to be shared with all people, and people did not have to agree with what the Church told them. Okay, as you can see, as evident, the Catholic Church was losing power over the knowledge of the Bible. Okay, look at the third body paragraph: limited Catholic corruption. That's your topic. Okay, so going back to that thesis, the Catholic Church began to lose influence as more people saw the corruption of Catholic clergy. Okay, evidence: John Tetzel sold indulgences for people to get into heaven. Okay, analysis: as people saw this corruption and realized from reading the Bible that this is not there's no biblical proof behind this act, they began to lose faith in their Catholic leaders and began to not follow their teachings. Okay. Next, church offices could be bought for a price. Okay. My link would be something along the lines of, as people saw that, church clergy were not in positions of power because of their knowledge of the Bible or their religious convictions, but for financial improvement or financial gain, people began to lose their willingness to do what these church leaders were telling them to do, especially when they had, in the Reformation, people who were more strong in their religious principles. Okay. Now here's an example of one written out. My topic sentence: the Catholic Church lost political influence as German princes began to divide the church. Now I need to prove it. Evidence: Frederick, the Duke of Saxony, is an example of a German prince who decided to rule his own kingdom without fear of the church. When Martin Luther was excommunicated by the Catholic Church and Emperor Charles V, Frederick protected Luther, hoping that a split in the church would allow princes to run their own kingdoms as they wanted. Now notice, I'm going to stop right there, that in your sentences you can have a situation where a sentence can be part giving evidence and also part giving that analysis or explanation. That's completely fine. They don't need to be separate sentences. Okay? It's often best if your evidence contains more than one sentence, because oftentimes you need to really describe that evidence. And one of the big problems I see is people give evidence, but they don't really do a good enough job describing what that evidence is before they start trying to give the significance of that information. Okay? So make sure that you completely describe the evidence to show what your claim is saying. Okay? Next one. The Peace of Augsburg, signed in 1555, made an official policy in Europe that he who rules his religion. Analysis. This meant the ruler had the power to select the religion for all of his people. With this power, he could decide to ignore the Pope and run his own kingdom without interference. So you can see here, sometimes you need to provide analysis that's more than one sentence. Okay? So when you think of the CELEL paragraph, don't think of each part as one sentence, because sometimes you're going to need more than one sentence to do that job. And then I pretty much kind of restate the claim at the end. The Reformation allowed German princes to hold more power than ever before. Okay? So that's a simple CELEL paragraph with another claim kind of restating the claim as a concluding sentence at the end. So claim, evidence, link, and then I restate the claim. Okay. This is something that you will and should be able to do in this course. Okay. You need to, once again, pay attention to how specific your evidence is. Okay. As opposed to just saying kings could pick their own religion is not nearly as specific as saying the Peace of Augsburg, signed in 1555, said that he who rules his religion, right? That's more specific. That shows you know the history a little bit more than just speaking in general terms of kings could pick their own religion. Okay? So in writing body paragraphs, just remember to give the claim, which should include your topic and your thesis, meld them together, use specific evidence, and then make sure that you link that evidence back to that claim, which also has the thesis as part of it, right? And do that a couple times, and you're good to go. Okay? The key to writing body paragraphs is good planning. You should have all of this information planned out beforehand before you start writing. Okay? Thank you, and make sure you see the next video, which is writing conclusions.